you probably are not going to receive better or more services, regardless of what they may tell you. At the end of the day, what this government is doing is growing beyond your means to pay for it. What Trim and these other amendments basically have said is that the government has to budget. I didn't get a choice when Wall Street, whoever you want to blame it on, when the economic downturn occurred and people say we can't use your services or you've got to go or we're going to cut your salary in half. People didn't get a choice. They had to cinch up their belt, live within their means. So that meant you got rid of the fat, the excess, the waste, whatever it was. If you like to do 3 movies a week, suddenly you were doing Netflix. Same thing has to happen with the county government. As I understand it, the county council's budget has basically doubled in the time that they've been in office. The county's budget has basically doubled. It started out with a $1.7 billion budget in 2003. Now they're proposing to take it to $2.6 billion. You have to understand that they are planning to spend more money than they have. We don't do that. At least I can plan to spend more money, but the people at Visa, American Express, my mortgage company, they very quickly remind you you don't have the ability to do that.
What your limits are.
And the last thing I'll say is that this budget is going to be balanced. Spending will be cut. Somebody's going to cinch up that belt. The only question we have to decide is who. Either it will be the county government or it will be you.
Wow. Terry, how about you chime in with that? We hear about, obviously, everybody's in tough economic times. Is it the case that our government is being responsible in their growth and in the budgets that we're presenting? Is this responsible, or is this perhaps unchecked and out of balance in terms of the numbers that we just heard about the county council's government budget nearly doubling and the budget doubling from $1.7 billion to a proposed $2.6 billion? What do you say there, Terry?
Well, what I say is, again, you have to look at things in perspective. I mean, Prince George's County has about 830,000 folks, just under about 100,000 folks less than Montgomery County. Montgomery County has about a $5.2 to $5.3 billion county budget. We have about 2.6. And the difference being is that, we have not, and this is something that Prince George's County has to be taken a task on, is we have not diversified our economy so that we can take advantage of and create employment centers and create a dynamic where we shift the outflow of taxable revenue from this county to other jurisdictions. That is our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is not that we're falling essentially $130 million short on this budget, is that in the years where the property taxes were where property values were very high, therefore your property taxes were higher because it was being assessed on a higher property value. Everybody knows that at some point that is going to stop and possibly decline, and you have to plan. You repair your roof on a sunny day, not on a rainy day. Right now, we're trying to repair our roof on a rainy day. That's a problem we have. That's a problem that needs to be dealt with right now because, you know what, DaRayl? 10 years from now, we're going to see another cycle. Sure. And you can't forget where you came from, in a downturn because, the lean years come, they go, but they come back. Sure. And so that's what I'm hoping that we focus on is not so much, whether or not we have this downturn. Everyone has the downturn. Ours is not as bad as most. I mean, California is humongous. They got over $30 billion deficit. That's the almost largest the entire budget of the state of Maryland.
Wow.
Again, Montgomery County is almost 4 times our deficit. Only 100,000 more folks. So. And the country, I mean, led by a Republican administration for the last 8 years, have essentially destroyed our economy from a deficit perspective. So what I want to look at primarily in Prince George's County is how do we change this paradigm and not be so dependent on the individual homeowner and essentially change again the paradigm of the outflow of our wealth leaving this county every day.
Sure.
You've heard me say this before, DaRayl, about the 265,000 folks who leave this county every day commuting to jobs in other jurisdictions.
Definitely.
That is the greatest transfer of wealth possibly in the history of the state of Maryland, possibly the history of the Mid-Atlantic region, happens in Prince George's County every day.
Wow.
That's where the real discussion is. And to the degree that we can cut costs to come in line with the $2.6 billion budget, that's fine. But you know what? You can't do that 5 years down the road, still have a $2.6 billion budget as the county grows and as the needs of the residents grow. You got to come up with other alternative revenue-generating factors to the economy, and the way we do that is get outside of the box of thinking that we're only a bedroom community where people come and lay their heads at night to transfer the wealth during the daytime hours.
Wow. I appreciate that perspective. And I think overall, that's one of the approaches that we take even with Wealth of the Nation, that we do require a paradigm shift in so many different areas and aspects of our lives, specifically as we talk about our wealth, because we only often think of it as, the financial component of wealth. But I think some of the figures that you just gave there, that huge transfer of wealth, we have to understand that as human capital, where we decide to live, work, and play and spend our resources, it definitely impacts our home communities. And that's important. I wanted to point out that I've noted here the actual cost, because one of the things that you guys mentioned is that there's a fear of the unknown. Nobody really likes the unknown. And so I think it will be helpful for people to have an idea of what they can expect this tax increase to be, or how it might impact them. I know the percentages in the past, it's been, that the tax can't be increased by more than 5%, and the proposal is that it goes up by 10%, and that would be at the limits of what the Homestead Act says. And that effect is, I guess, the 10% cap will cost the average homeowner about $200. If they have a home valued at $246,000 on average, it will be about $235 more per year in property tax. How does that,
Well, the problem with that is that there are a lot of things that are at play all at the same time. Excuse me. For instance, what is really at play here is that the Homestead Exemption Act prevents your home from growing in value too quickly. So say, for instance, just, round numbers, if you had a home you bought at $100,000, currently assessed at a value of $200,000, just to argue about it.
Sure.
The state can't come in on the next year and say, well, you now must pay taxes on that $200,000. Under the current law, it can only go up in value or an assessed value up to $105,000.
Right.
They want to take it up to $110,000. Now, most people don't own homes that cost $100,000. I think probably on average here in Prince George's County, you'd be looking at maybe $300,000-$400,000. The second thing that comes into play are the assessed values of your home. While everyone else acknowledges that the value of your home is going down, the government doesn't.
Right.
The government continues to assess the values up. My understanding, they've got about a year in appeals of people who are arguing with them about what is the current value of the home. Now we add to that argument the fact that since the government thinks that they can defy law, the laws of supply and demand, and the value is going up instead of down, they are now going to tack on basically sort of double the rate at which it's going to be assessed. So instead of allowing the value to float up 5% a year, they want it to go up 10% a year. Now, this is at a time when I've got personal friends. I have a personal friend who lost 1/3 of his salary to keep his job. He went from $90,000 a year to $60,000 just like that. The alternative was hit the road. I know people who've been foreclosed on. I know people who've lost time. They can't even work their full 40 hours a week. In that type of environment, the political leadership is now saying, well, this is just another tax, and depending on how you figure, it's only $200 more. I guarantee it'll be more than that.
Wow.
Typically what we do is we look at the best case scenario when it comes time to figure out how much the tax is going to, take out of our pockets.
Yeah.
But what you wind up getting is the worst case reality when they actually implement it.
Well, I wanted to ask, and perhaps you can chime in with this, Terry. Is it true, what I've read of the county exec's position is that if we do not do this particular tax increase, and that's the way I've seen it, and perhaps it's different, but if we do not do this particular tax increase, Would it be the case that we're going to have to cut services, in particular, our emergency services, our police and our emergency responders? Is that the actual case, Terry?